Okay. I know that my screen as well as my voice is clear. Now, in order to avoid disturbance, I have muted everybody. If you need to talk to me, make a comment, raise your hand, or put a message once in a way. I will go to the chat box and see what you have to say. Now, this primarily is being done at the behest of the management. At the end of it, each one of you is expected to write a detailed, not exactly what I presented here, but your take and how useful and effective it has been for you to change your learning techniques. And primarily, you will profusely thank the management because it is on their account and on their request that this is being held. I do not hold this free of cost. It is generally held outside. Innumerable number of students come. Learning is an art. Many students go through their entire academic career having no clue and as a consequence do poorly academically. So therefore, though you're about to witness an opening into the mind, into an opening will be made into your mind on how to learn. Alvin Toffler said, if you have learned the art of learning, no door will stand in your way. Those who have gone through this program and meticulously applied it with hardly an hour of preparation per day, they have become distinction and rank holders. So shall we therefore start this program, Learning to Learn? That was formerly what I was in this college as the head of ENT, associate dean, head of medical education, which I have now, they have the management's directive. I have now once again resumed the in charge of the entire academics of the college and as well as the medical as deputy superintendent as well. But I now have given up all that and completely sort of come back just as a faculty. Now, why should I hold this program? What is the forerunner? Let me have a look at my own marks. PUC, first year, second year, and maths, 100 out of 100, and physics and maths, and 96. And saying as a consequence, I joined Manipal. At that time, my father paid 800 rupees, which now in many colleges runs into a crore plus. So if you have marks and if you know the art of studying, then that's how your career will take off. Now I'm just professor of the Department of Head and Neck Surgery of AJ Medical College. Have I done anything else? Yes. As a consequence, initially in the beginning years after my MBBS, when I realized that medicine had its own limitations, plus if you have diversifying knowledge on various other areas, then that takes you a step far advanced and forwards. So I picked up a diploma in advanced computer software application. I'm a qualified system analyst. I've done programs in electronics engineering as well as wireless telecommunication. And I have applied all of that in my career. So let us see what dictates. Quite often on day one, you have no clue, which is what William Shakespeare said, decide to be the best. You need to decide. If you have not taken the decision throughout your entire academic career, you will simply meander through as a mediocre student. You need to make that decision, which is why William Shakespeare said to be or not to be. On day one, you got to decide. At the end of 4.5 years, you got to prefix the two tiny little letters DR in front of your name. Because what such hope and such aspirations that your parents have struggled and put you here, and it is with that desire that you've joined this course as well. So therefore, you need to decide to be the best. Why? Because consciousness is only 10%. Your subconscious mind is 90%. You need to send a signal to your subconscious mind, 90%, that you're going to be the best academically and you're going to do extremely well. That's what I said. Alvin Toffler, he said knowledge is power. So be prepared. If you're going to do academically well, get a distinction, you got to be prepared to put in the requisite effort. No pain, no gain, through the thoughts to the stars, which means, does it mean that you got to study day and night? Let me have a look at my own classmates. When I joined Manipal, we have 4-seater rooms there, and 3 of us very hard working every day till 1 o'clock in the night. But the fourth fellow, he would by 9:30, he would be fast asleep. And of course, in the evenings, he'll be in the football field and matches and movies and other things. But every day, 1 hour, he would absolutely rock study. 1 hour every day, 5 to 6, he would sit and study. That's all he did. First year to final year, he was a class topper. And we all wondered what made him tick. But today I realized that it is the technique that matters. So let's have a look and let us unfold what is a technique that matters. Now, be self-confident. If you feel however much you amount of effort, if you feel you can't get a distinction or the subject is too tough, I've seen students who say, "Oh, I'm poor in maths." They will be poor in maths. You got to say, "I'm good," and you have to have that self-confidence. Self-confidence is a better predictor of success than anything else. So, therefore, you need to imbibe and inculcate that self-confidence and be self. Now, in spite of all that, I've read that so many times, yet I can't remember, I fail. And then you ask for a repeat evaluation, you ask for a challenge. What is the use? You should have, right from the very beginning, incorporated the perfect techniques that will help you remember. So therefore, let us see what goes wrong and what can be done to make it go right. Now, what is the backbone of memory? Iron. If you're deficient in iron, how much ever you read, simply it will not be retained in your brain. So once again, in spite of all the effort, let's have a look at what is required for you to remember. And that is the backbone. If you're iron deficient, if your hemoglobin, which is a reflection of your blood iron status, is about 8 or 9 or 10, how much amount of effort you put, there still it is simply not locked in. So make sure that your hemoglobin is at least 13 to 15 grams per deciliter. If I randomly check everybody of your batch, how many will have a hemoglobin of less of 13 or more? So therefore, make sure that your hemoglobin is 13 or more. It could be up to 15 or 16, but ideally it should be 13 to 15. And in order to do that, there are a host of things that you need to take care. What are they? You need to have iron. You need to have vitamin C, folate, B12, copper, vitamin E. If you do not have any of this, the manufacture of hemoglobin will be stunted and you will be low in your hemoglobin. Now, if your hemoglobin is low, then you'll be extremely tired. And plus, on top of how much ever you read, it will not simply remain in your brain. So, therefore, let us have a look at the study system in two ways. Number one, your brain, which is a computer, and number two, the software, which is a studying technique. Now, why are so many low in hemoglobin? I run a memory clinic in Kerala on weekends, and tons of mothers come because by word of mouth, and they say, "How much our my child studies, he's not able to remember thing." I only ask one question: do they drink tea? And invariably, the answer is yes, because tea absolutely blocks iron from absorption. In my house, when my children are studying, I'd absolutely debarred tea because tea's molecular structure is such that it will completely clamp and take iron away from the diet. Now, where is this of concern is young mothers, because menstrual blood loss causes a loss of iron every month. And on top of that, when they drink tea, the iron from the diet is completely blocked. As a result, they become grossly iron deficient. Now, that predisposes young mothers to throat cancer. Did you know that? And iron deficiency anemia eminently is a potential causative factor for throat cancer. And how many young mothers, small children, they come with throat cancer and eventually they will die? And where in India, in the government or 70 years plus, have we ever brought an awareness about this? How many, whereas which country has the awareness to rectify this? Sweden. Sweden has said you will absolutely fortify wheat flour with iron. As a consequence of iron deficiency, anemia is almost non-existent. Throat cancer because of iron deficiency is an unknown thing in Sweden. So it is so sad that in India things are like this. So absolutely do not touch tea. And where we will go for accredited knowledge, the PubMed, which is where all the major journal articles are listed. And look at this mechanism of inhibition of iron absorption by T of T significantly inhibits the absorption of iron and food iron and medicinal iron. There are so many articles. And does that cause cancer? Of course, yes. Plummer-Vinson syndrome is iron deficiency anemia, causes cancer of the upper alimentary tract, especially the post-cricoid area. So therefore, in your own homes, for your mothers, for female, make sure that they do not touch as far as called tea. If they do, there's a way of preparing tea that will not have this deleterious effect, and make sure that the hemoglobin is not less than 13 to 14 grams per deciliter. Now, apart from that, what does the brain require to effectively function? If you want good muscles, you need to have proteins, good bones, calcium. Whereas for the brain to function, what is it made of? It is made of fat. And of that, the principal ingredient that you require is ghee. That takes a person to a different level. I've had mothers come and tell me, doctor, before your treatment, they wouldn't even touch the books. Now they are not letting the book go from their hands because that is how the brain gets vastly activated. Today, we know, of course, that ghee promotes learning, memory, and recall. And therefore, if possible, take a teaspoon of ghee every single day. Now, well, for people of specific areas in both Kerala as well as Bengal, the Bengalis are brilliant. All these guys, Amarji Bose, the Bose who won the, so many brilliant people, which is why, because the fish oil is a prime staple diet for them. And do we have documented evidence? Yes. Look at this: cognitive and physiological effects of omega-3 polyunsaturated acids in healthy individuals. The extraordinary effects of omega-3. Now, omega-3 plays a role in nervous system activity, and they improve cognitive development and reference memory-related learning. What is the conclusion? Omega-3 supplementation, which is docosahexaenoic acid, eicosapentaenoic acid, and arachidonic acid. These are the three omega-3 fatty acids. They improve attentional and physiological functions, particularly those involving complex cortical processing. What I generally do when parents come with children, I generally supplement them with omega-3, ask them to take a teaspoon of ghee, absolutely avoid tea. Plus, we conduct classes here. I'm now in Kerala, where we conduct a class on how to study this particular thing. And it is unbelievable. Students who have come at 8th standard level, studies here, quantum academic performance. They have fantastic academic. Those who have come at 8th standard, eventually they have become rank holders. They have gone on to medicine, engineering, law, and chartered accountancy, all primarily because of the way they have the way they have adopted the technique of studying. So we'll leave that there. And we have looked at the brain as a computer. Now let's look at the software, which is a technique. Now, how many hours? The question is, sometimes you are so slouched that beyond a certain point, about 2 hours, you will get stressed and not be able to focus for a long period of time. So look at the way you sit and look at how comfortable you should be with your spine sort of straight and erect, and make sure that you can focus for any length of time. Now, as far as eyes go, if you do not, if every day till late night you're studying and then go to sleep, your eyes will get fixed for the short distance. Now, what will happen? Beyond a point, the eye power will be fixed for the short distance. You can't see long distances, and as a consequence, you tend to wear glasses. How can we avoid that? Number one, every day, at any time, before you go to sleep, look at a distant object as a star or a street light, focus, blink, and then go to sleep. Now, if you do that every single day, you will find as the years unfold, you will not develop a short sight, which many doctors are known to sort of eventually develop. And periodically blink. Sometimes you have a fixed stare, keep your eyes relaxed, as well as focus on this long distance. Anytime you go to sleep, look at a long distance, fixed focus, and then blink in order that the eyes get reformatted. So now, how long should you study? Primarily for the next 4.5 to 3, that means about 8 or 10 years you're going to study, and then therefore let us have a very clear plan. Should we study for 1 or 6 years? Get the technique. Let us, I've randomly chosen certain chapters, and let's have a look at, we are looking at several gases. Now, as you see the way we need to read several gases, where are they found in the atmosphere? To absorb infrared. On each concept that you read, on each concept, you need to formulate a question. Ask yourself, the moment you formulate a question, you will find that your mind is absolutely fixed on what you're focusing on. So what are we talking about? Gas in the atmosphere. What do they have? The ability to absorb infrared radiation. And from where? From the Earth's surface. Now, this gives rise to what? The greenhouse effect. as a consequence of greenhouse effect, how does that happen? By gases in the atmosphere. What do? They absorb infrared radiation. And as a consequence of that absorption, what happens? The earth gets heated up. How much it gets heated up from base level 33 degrees? If this heating mechanism was not there, the earth would have been colder by 33 degrees. So what are we talking about? Gases in the atmosphere, what do they have? The ability to absorb infrared radiation and resulting in what? Greenhouse effect. What does it result in? Heating. If this greenhouse effect was not there, the Earth's temperature would have lowered by 33 degrees centigrade. Now, which are these gases of import? They are carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and methane. And of late, because of industrialization, has these gases been increasing in the atmosphere? Yes. Why? Primarily because of industrialization as well as burning of fossil fuel. What are we talking about? Gases. Where in the atmosphere? What do? They absorb infrared radiation, resulting in what? The greenhouse effect. As a consequence of which the Earth's temperature increased by 33 degrees Celsius. How much would the Earth become cooler if this greenhouse effect was not there? It would have been become cooler by 33 degrees. Which are these gases? Methane, carbon dioxide, and nitrous oxide. Of late, these gases have been increasing. As a consequence, of late, you will find that the Earth's atmosphere itself, the planet's temperature itself, has been increasing, which is why Greta Thunberg, she made so much of noise, because it is actually true. And if you look at the Arctic and Antarctic, all the massive ice shelves are melting. And therefore, it is predicted in about 2-3 years, the water level will rise by 2 or 3 feet. If that is so, many countries will submerge and disappear. What is the reason for all that? The greenhouse effect. Why? Burning of fossil fuels and industrialization. Which are the gases? Methane, carbon dioxide, and nitrous oxide. Where are they present? In the Earth's atmosphere. What do? They absorb infrared radiation, resulting in what? Heating up of the Earth's atmosphere. What are the other gases? Ozone, water vapor, and chlorofluorocarbons, which are all present in the coolants, in fridge and air conditioners. So look at this small subtopic. We have read that only once, but do you have absolute mastery on that? Yes, of course. How many gases? Methane, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide. By how many degrees does the temperature increase by as a consequence of this? 33 degrees. Has the concentration of these gases increasing? Yes. As a consequence, is the greenhouse effect and is increasing? Yes. Now, increasing of the Earth's atmosphere results in the melting of Arctic and Antarctic. Now, leave it there. In which year? 1878. From which country? Canada. Who was that? Sanford Fleming suggested what? A system of worldwide time zones. From which country? Canada. In which year? 1878. Now, he proposed that so that in order to simplify the keeping of time zones. Now, what did he propose? The Earth be divided into 24 time zones. Why? Because once in every 24 hours, the Earth completely rotates. So he said, let us have 24, once in 24 hours, once in 24 time zones. And each hour, if it is divided into 24 time zones, how many degrees of longitude is there? 360. So 360 divided by 24. Each zone would be of a 15-degree longitude. That is a width. And the Earth in 1 hour rotates through how many degrees of longitude? 15 degrees. Who proposed this? Sanford Fleming. From which country? In Canada. In which year? 1878. A system of time-keeping zones. How many zones? 24 zones. How many degrees of longitude are there? 360 degrees. 24 divided by 360, how many? You get 15 degrees of longitude for each 1 hour of rotation. So he divided the Earth into 24 time zones. Then he said from somewhere that time has to start. And he placed a specific point, and that is Greenwich, in which he drew one line. And he said, let that time start from that particular line. From that line to India. How many zones are there? Yeah, how many zones are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 hours ahead. That's how you see the location of India. Let us have a look at where 5.5 hours. Where does this first line here in Greenwich, and that is called the prime meridian. How many zones? 24 time zones. Each zone is of how many degrees longitude? 15 degrees. From which country? Canada. And who? Sanford Fleming. And which year? 1878. Now we'll leave that there. You're all studying now anatomy. Let's have a look at anatomy. Now, we are looking at the nose, and the nose is divided into two by a vertical partition. Now, this entire partition is made of cartilage and bone. So it divides it into two cavities. And this division is by either cartilage, which is in front, and bones behind. So what are we talking about? A vertical wall. What does it do? It divides the nose into two cavities. What are they made of? They are made of cartilage in front, this cartilage in front, and behind a thin plate of bone. That is called the these bones are of two components, the perpendicular plate of ethmoid and the vomer. So this constellation comprising of this combination comprising of this entire thing that divides the nose into two is called the nasal septum, dividing the nose into two cavities. What are the components called? In front, a cartilaginous portion called the nasal septum. Behind, a bony component called the perpendicular plate of ethmoid above and the vomer below. Why is it called the vomer? You can ask a quiz question, because the thing that they plow the field attached to a wooden rod with two bullocks pushing it into the field and plowing it. This is its shape, a metal plate. And because that is called the vomer, this is also called the vomer. So we have had a detailed look at the anatomy of the nose and how it is structured and what are the partitions and what is it made of and what is the lining. And let us therefore leave it there. Now, another thing I took from botany, because primarily PUC students were also targeted, but the incredible effect that this has had on young minds and eventually how they shoot up in academics. So now, once you have studied topics, for example, 3 topics we have studied today, make a list. What did we first talk about? The greenhouse effect. Second, time zones. 3, nose and partition of the nose. And then make a list and keep a separate book of list, which you need to sequentially revise one by one from the very beginning, either weekly or fortnightly or monthly. But what is of greater import is that the gap between 2 revisions must be absolutely equidistant. If you do not revise, it is simply not possible. Let me make that very clear. You need to have a revision pattern. You need to either revise weekly, fortnightly, month. But if you're doing it monthly, make sure every month on the same day, maybe the last Sunday of the month, is kept for absolute revisions, and that is inviolate. Nobody can touch it. The remaining 3 Sundays, catch up with friends, socialize, go for a picnic, whatever. So therefore, you need to have that revision, and as a consequence, make sure that the revision time is untouchable. Nobody can disturb you in that space of time. So there are certain things you need to by heart. What are the definitions? For example, define a nasal polyp. In my area, ENT, heart and neck surgery, a polyp is an edematous hypertrophied protrusion of cell lining from its ostium containing variable degree of round cell infiltrate, traversed on a surface by faint blood vessels insensitive to touch. Definitions are things that you need to absolutely by heart. The ancients felt that the only way that you can transport knowledge through generations is by heart. And for example, define cholesteatoma as a tumor-like mass of epidermal debris that leads convection to a skin-lined sac and a biliary artery in which are occasionally found cholesterol crystals. Define truth is a statement of facts, things which are not the figments of imagination of favored brain, but a state of quality of being in accordance with experience. Define a perfect nose as one that which is well defined, gently curved with the same suggestion by suppurative depression with the ala caving gracefully backwards, and when viewed from below, presents an isosceles triangle. Now, to by heart it, there's a specific way of doing it. We will look into that later, but there are things that you need to by heart. Now, I'll come back again. Which year did Sanford Fleming conceive the time zones 1878? You read that only once, but you see how difficult it is for you to forget. And numbers. Now, have a separate book of dates, values, numbers. By how much of temperature would the Earth have become cooler if the greenhouse effect was not there? 33. You see how many values, how many components are there of the bony septum? 2. So these dates, values, numbers are periodically to be revised as along with the other, but have a separate book for that. And if the revision dates time should be equidistant once a month. That's all that you need to do. Because by the time you finish your course, 12 times you would have revised, and that is enough. it is found statistically that if you, by the third revision, a firm molecule is formed in the brain, which becomes indelible. Now we say the subject that we study is called the curriculum. Why is it called curriculum? Because it's called a curricule that comes from a chariot. You should be like a chariot going at an optimal speed. If you go too fast, you can topple over. If you are too slow, others will overtake you. Like a horse, the eyes look at carefully. The eye by slash is not diverted from its attention. It may absolutely focus on the endpoint, which is 12 months' time. Or if it is a semester system, then 6 months. In 6 months, by about 5 months, your portions should be complete and should have had absolute mastery on that. Now, if that is the starting point, now of course there'll be 1 month of a preparatory orientation program, which initially I did not agree. But in Manipal, when we studied, the initial time was 1.5 years. Now it is just 1 year, in which 1 month is already gone as a foundation course. Then that's the only time we have. By about the 10th, 11th month, your subject matter, you should be absolutely thorough. That's a very clear plan that you should have, so that the last 1 month is for revisions only. Now, how long should you sleep? Many students, I sort of stood up and studied, and their parents will say, oh, he started so hard and study. It doesn't really matter. Sleep well. But if your technique of studying is systematic and proper, then you need to just put in, like my roommate who was there, just 1 hour proper systematic study. It is not the vast expanse of time, amount that you have studied. I've read an entire chapter. If you hardly recall precious little, what is the point of covering an entire chapter per day? So even if it is one paragraph, you must have absolute mastery on it. If you've done that, for example, come back again. How many time zones? 24. How many? What is the width of one time zone? 15 degrees. How many hours are there? How many degrees? Longitude 360 degrees. And where does it start from? Greenwich. What is the line that is missing? It's called the prime meridian. And what is the gap between India and Greenwich? 5.5 hours. Only once you read, but how thorough you are. So that is because the way you read, simply reading just like that will make no sense and is of no use whatsoever. So therefore, at the end of it, you will have a book of list which you will memorize and look through. And of course, every single answer. The other day, examiners, we were sitting chatting, and we were discussing by what parameters do you correct an answer? Diagrams. So everything that you study, if there's a line diagram or a diagram, you need to separately write that in a book of diagrams and practice that. It is difficult to conceive of a diagram during an exam time. And therefore, it is not easy to sort of, you must be effortless and proficient in these diagrams. So by the time you finish your subject study, a book of diagrams should all be ready at your fingertips. Now, once you have data, diagram, and dates absolutely mastered, you have total mastery of the subject. So you go about it. So easy, so nice. Now, in that process, make sure that you look after your health. And in that regard, you must have good immunity. And now, what is the backbone of immunity? Again, I come back, be of calm mind, because if you are stressed, then your immunity gets depressed, which is why during exam time, too many students become sick. That's called an exam fever, if as a consequence of stress. So be calm. If you're thorough with your subject, you don't have to have any stress at all. Fresh lime also gives in vitamin C. If you're not taking that, at least take vitamin C, because Linus Pauling, who got the Nobel Prize twice, he absolutely advocated vitamin C for a host of things. You hardly find animals becoming sick because they manufacture vitamin C. Humans cannot manufacture, and therefore they absolutely become sick. So they need to have an external source of vitamin C. Plus, what is the backbone of health? Iron. Why we say an apple a day keeps the doctor away? Because apart from the vitamin C, it is rich in iron. When you cut it, it becomes red. That is the iron getting oxidized. So therefore, you need to have some amount of iron going in daily. Because as I said, if you're deficient in iron, how much ever you read, nothing will remain in your brain. Let me make that very clear. So at least once a week, check your hemoglobin, make sure it is optimal, and have these things be consumed. Towards the end, you must be friendly with everybody, but towards the end, stay away from arguments and discourse and difference of opinion, because that is total. You must have a calm temperament and mind. Towards the exam time, stay away from any argument or whatsoever. You are an island unto yourself. To the rest of the course, be friendly with all your batchmates. There should not be a single batchmate that you do not know. Once a week, take 1 or 2 of your batchmates, go for a cup of coffee, fraternize, socialize, But towards the exam, do not indulge in any fights or arguments, because that will totally upset your system. Now, if you do not have a perfect way of holding pen, then the handwriting becomes miserable. So I have looked into the various ways of holding a pen. Make sure that all the letters are nicely and neatly formed, and practice writing 5 minutes a day. Practice writing and make sure that you yourself can read your handwriting, that your letters are well formed. If a particular letter is not properly formed, you need to take that one specific letter, buy a handwriting book, and practice until your letters are perfectly formed. Because if you yourself cannot read your own handwriting, then how do you expect the examiners to understand? So look at this like an artwork it is. At least make it legible. And towards it, if you have studied so much, you will realize that you have lost touch with speed. So every day, 5 minutes practice speed writing, that ensure that you can fill in 45 minutes time one entire essay question. Sometimes examiners will get irritated if your spelling is not right, which means that difficult words you got to take and practice these spellings. Keep it separately in a couple of sheets of paper and practice those spellings until they are error free. Now, you've done all that, finish the subject. One day before the exam, the entire thing you need to run through, which is why I always say one day before the exam, there must be a day's gap. Sometimes these exam setters will have no clue about all this, but one day, do not read with your lips. They are rate limiting steps, and you will be sort of limited in completing. You will simply scan all of that, because 12 times you revise if it is once a month, and all of that quickly glance through with your eyes. Now, a day before the exam, I've seen on the day, no, a day before or 2 days before the exam, you will make your itinerary preparation. Make sure that the hall, keep that all that in a corner which nobody has an access to. Make sure that there's a spare pen, sharpened pencils, rubber, hall ticket, scale, compass, watch, all that is prepared, and keep it separately, so that on the day of exam, you just need to take them and run. And apart from that, get to know where the exam hall, sometimes some maintenance work, the exam hall will be shifted. And suddenly you realize it is shifted. By the time you dash to the new location, if 30 minutes has elapsed, there are professors' children who have lost an entire exam. The moment it is 31 minutes, the exam superintendent will not allow you to enter. So get to know the previous day where the exam hall is, go there and have a look and make sure that you know where it is, and make sure that you arrive half an hour early, because on the way, so many things can go wrong. So in the first minute, when you get the paper, what do you do? If it is a 3-hour paper, you will time allocate that if it starts at 9 o'clock, by 10:30, your first section should be over. Now, if you do not do that, you will find you will keep writing the first section. By the time you finish, nearly half that second hour session is over. You will not have enough time. Then there's no point writing at the end of the, I know, I'm sorry, sir, that I could not finish, or we have no consideration for such things. So the first thing is you will drop very clearly 9 to 10:30, by 1.5 hours, your first section you should complete. And that is an absolute must. And the second section, you must finish by 3 hours time. Now, there are certain exam dynamics. Number one, right, make sure that there is a margin. Make sure that there's a very clear question number. If I don't find a question number, you would have extensively written. As far as I'm concerned, you have not attempted it. I'll just write NA and give you 0 marks and I will go on. I cannot have the botheration to find out, because your handwriting is so pathetic, what you have written here. All I will first look at is the question number. And two, every question number must have a subheading, because your answers are illegible. I would primarily, if I have 100 answer papers to correct and just hardly 2 hours to finish it, how do I expect me? Hardly, most of us during exam time hardly ever read what you've written. We just scan through what you've written. But if there's a very clear legible diagram, out of 5 marks, 4, take it. Why bother? So therefore, that's how it should be. And answer each question. Your kindergarten teacher told you, try to project a good impression on the teacher. This is not kindergarten. It's a professional exam system. So write it sequentially. If I am troubled by a candidate, he writes question number 3 first, then 6th one, then 8th question. And if I'm forced to go up and down, up and up and down, my marks also will reduce. So write everything in a sequential point manner, and make sure that there is some space at the end of each answer, so that by chance some extra points come. That the brain is like that. If you think too much about it, sometimes some points will be suppressed. And but it is like you try to remember somebody's name, face, you can see, you simply will not get it. Leave it, go to something else, suddenly the name will pop in back. So if you get something, then you can enroll that at the end of the thing. Now, let each answer be filled with sufficient diagrams. In one answer of mine, I did not get enough marks. I went to the HOD and I asked, where is my mark for this? I expected 4 out of 5. In one question, he said, for this particular answer, where is your diagram? Diagram. They will make you or break you. So one student came and said, I wrote exactly like him. And she said, why is my marks low? I looked at both papers and I said, listen, he has used 2B pencil. You have used an HP, which is a faint pencil. And I can't even make out these diagrams. Look at his diagram. They're dark and popping up. And that's how the moment she understood the difference, immediately from next exam onward, she became a distinction student. So diagrams are the ones that take you to the next level. Each question, let there be a diagram, flow chart, or whatever. Make sure that in 1 minute, 1 second, I can see that, and then I will put my marks and go on. In order to do that, you must have a book of line diagrams. Fundamentals about answer paper basics. Number one, make sure that there is always a margin, and outside the margin is where, not with outside the margin is where the question number very clearly written. Some students try to manipulate, they put this number inside a temple or a church or a mosque or something, and no religious connotation. The moment I see that, or in a university, malpractice is to be considered, and this question will be, the exam entire paper will be deleted. There should, somebody will write an Om here or something. No religious connotation. Where illnesses are to a large extent religion free. Is, bacteria don't have a religion or this and that, and politics. No, nothing. There should be no. And the second thing is, the inside the margin, the sub numbers are to be written. If you write this here, I will say that here it is question number 2. I'll put the marks only 2 lines. So you let it not be. It will be very clear. There should be a margin. Outside the margin, question number. Inside the sub numbers of the answer. That's how it should be. At the end of it, draw a complete line. Leave a little space, because by chance some extra few points that you pop up, you can add it at the beginning. There's no point writing, I'm so sorry, I could have written more, but time is, we couldn't care less. Make sure in a sessional exam, you write your roll number, name, so that by chance it goes missing, then we can trace it back. Otherwise, we simply cannot. But this would, under any circumstance, be not be written in a university. We have had students who wrote their name because it became a habit sessionally. The moment the name is seen, instantly the exam will be cancelled and they will fail you, or you will say that better appear next time. It has happened several times. Make sure that you do not disclose your identity anywhere in the answer book, at least. Absolutely. And in the last 5 minutes, what do you do? Last 5 minutes, we'll quickly scan through all the answers, like the pre-exam, look through entire answer book, rectify spelling mistakes, make sure that the margin is there. Make sure for every answer there is a subheading. Subheadings can absolutely turn. When I told my children that, they were studying and doing pretty well, but I said subheadings are the things that teachers look into while correcting an answer paper. Immediately their marks started shooting up. That's how it's. After all, it's a matter of marks dynamics. And at the end of 5 minutes, make sure that during that 5 minutes, spelling number, question number, it is in a university thing, because you're not disclosed your name. Make sure it is properly tied and secured, where the hall ticket number is entered into the slot in which it is for. And then finally, give it to the hall superintendent. Give it to the divinity, to the universe, to God. If you have put in the requisite effort every single day, just 1 hour, that's all that is required. By the time you appear, you're a walking encyclopedia of knowledge. Bring in the requisite prestige and honor for the institution, for your parents, for yourself. How nice it becomes when the examiners. I felt extremely proud when students start rattling. My external examiners will say, "Look at how wonderful your students are." In many other colleges, they are absolutely pathetic. So therefore, if you have done all this properly, systematically, you will do well and become a ranked distinction student. Several ranks have come our way to this institution, all of primarily because the management support is there. Academic wise, anything you desire, the management will go out of the way to sort of contribute to whatever required. At the end of it, I will expect from each one of you present here a detailed feedback. Write your name, which the management will scrutinize, and of course, it will go in your good favor later on. But that, thank the management profusely for the support. It is on their direction that I'm doing it here. This program that I'm doing is extraordinarily popular across many students across India. They come for, but that's a heavily paid thing. Because I'm an AJ, I'm giving it to you free. A little bit about your own self. Certain things, are the fundamental tenets of your upward journey. Number one, if your class starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, be there 5 minutes before that. Who are the ideal students who are the first to come, last to go. To make sure on the dot, even if it's a meeting, if it is 9 o'clock, 5 minutes before that time, so factor in that space of time in your preparation, in your journey, in your travel, in your car, whatever it is, be there on the dot. It should be on time. If you give your word, you must honor it in any way to your colleagues, to your classmates, to your teachers. If you say my assignment will be done by tomorrow, it should be done. Otherwise, what should you do? Inform in any matter across, even clinicals. If you say that you're going to write the case sheet and look after the drugs and all that for patient, it must be done. If you're not in a position to do that, do not shirk your responsibility. You have to entrust it to somebody and inform the concerned authority that whatever it is that you've done. So let your words be written in granite, and never in your journey, never ever criticize or reply to third party comments. Today's world is such, if you reply to a third party or reply to a third party comment, it will go against you. Like in America, when cops catch a person, they say, beware of what you say, for what you say will be held against you. Now come back again. You may talk about yourself, you may talk about the person you're talking to, but never ever comment about a third party. Never reply to a third party comment, because there are people who will catch that, add pepper and salt to it, and then even convey that to whomever you're commenting about. If somebody talks something bad about a teacher, do not reply to it, because that very person might take it and tell the teacher, listen, he's talking like that about you, and create a mistrust. Do not, in life itself, do not comment about a third party. And in communication skills, which we'll do that at a later point of time, what is the cornerstone of good communication? Keep your mouth shut. Loose lips will sink ships. However, if you open your mouth, speak only good. Talk good about the institution, your colleagues, your teachers, whatever. If you have anything bad in which you feel it can be rectified, come to me, I will rectify it. Because so many student requirements, the management immediately takes an effort to make sure that your journey is smooth. So if you open your mouth, speak only good. Be neat in your attire, in yourself. People should look at, be neat and clean in your attire. And in that process, live within your means. Do not be a lender or a borrower. Do not borrow money. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. That's all. If you can't, do not. Once you lend money, initially it looks good, but eventually there'll be a terrible fight, and eventually you lose a good friend. So neither a lender nor a borrower be. And 10%, if you want to enjoy 90% of the money that you make, eventually, if you're really good in your work, you will make tons and tons of money. Great sufferings I've seen in doctors' lives. Why? If you want to enjoy 90% of the money that you make, close your eyes, 10% give it off to charity. Because charity, where does it begin? Begins at home. I would rather say never give it to poor people, because poor are poor by choice. If you work really hard, unless social factors are such that they cannot come out of it. But otherwise, if you work really hard, the heavens will open up, and anybody will be showered with good wealth. Work is worship, and good, very hard work will bring in the requisite financial prosperity. Now, charity begins at home. What does that mean? To your own parents, to your brothers, sisters, to your neighbor, Ethan, to your neighbors, or to your workers at home. Give 10%, just give it off. That doesn't belong to you. But if you do that, properly calculate, 10% is give it off. If you do that, 90% of the money that you make will remain with you. And make your fellow man feel needed. Do not, a critic is one who absorbs himself of his own irresponsibility by projecting onto those who are making an effort. So if you're a critic, nobody would like to be in your company, and you will be discarded. So anybody who finds something positive to comment and praise and be hearty in your approbation. So therefore, make your fellow man feel needed, and be hearty in your praise and lavish in your approbation. Make yourself world class. Live up to the greater self of you and the bigger version of yourself. So make yourself world class, and have a genuine smile. Now, if you look at the rank holders, what did the founding philosopher in one book of hers, Ayn Rand, she said, look at the unsmiling seriousness of a very hardworking student. Eventually, if you look at the very hardworking distinction students, then finally when they put a shop and start practice, no practice. If you go to KMC, as you enter the dean's office, on the left side, there's called the blue ribbon list. People who have been outstanding, world-class students who have been the best of the lot. They are called the best outgoing student. Eventually, when they come into private practice, they're miserable failures. Why? The patients say, look at that doctor's smile, so genuine and warm and compassionate and caring, that is enough to get rid of our illnesses. So a smile is the first gift that you can give another human. If you do not have a ready smile, then go to your own hostel rooms, look at your mirror, put two little fingers in the corners of your mouth and pull it out, and look how a pleasurable emotion is affected as a smile. So never ever laugh at a person. You can laugh with a person, but never laugh, including the patients. Never laugh at a patient. You can laugh with a patient, crack a joke. In the first 60 minutes, when you do that, that's the time that you build a bond. Now, this particular thing, because there's so much of confusion among boys, I took this from the matrimonial advertisement for grooms, wanted groom. I've not hardly ever seen tall, dark, well-built, handsome. No, I've only seen caring, loving, sincere, friendly. So many aged boys, especially, they go to many gyms and put on heavy weight muscles, and then sort of so much of time and money they put in that and become like bulldozers. Does it ever matter? Absolutely no. But for a girl, what really matters is he loving, caring, sincere, friendly. These are all adjectives. Whereas if you look at a wanted matrimonial advertisement for girls, that's a different thing altogether. So therefore, are you look into yourself, introspect? Are you caring, loving, sincere, and friendly? Not just amongst for amongst batchmates also manifest these traits, because they will stand by you in good stead. A little about various things we have done. Well, the only accredited site in the world accredited by the American Medical Council is what is called eMedicine. Today it's been bought by Medscape. Once you pass, you will never ever buy your textbook. In order to update knowledge, you will refer to eMedicine. And it is a duty of these eMedicine authors to continuously update knowledge. Now, in that, two chapters, mastoiditis, mastoiditis, I was an associate at the time in the Manipal group, Kasur Medical College of Distinction and Repute. The moment you say you're from Manipal, you're put on a different pedestal altogether, because it's such a wonderful college. Mastoiditis, well as plastic surgery tip of the nose. Could you ever imagine that sitting in India, nearly 200 to 300 plastic surgeons, about 800 to 1,000 American doctors refer to my chapters in order to get what is called their CME points. Even in America, in 7 years' time, you must accumulate 100 points. If you do not get that, you cannot practice medicine. Shortage is going to come to India too. The moment you graduate, within 5 years, you must have 30 points. Otherwise, you can't touch a patient. That is the CMA accreditation thing that is about to happen, which is already there in the United States. So therefore, in USA, they will read my chapter, answer my questions, and if they've done that, each of my chapter is valid for 10 points. Of course, I get a minuscule paid in dollars from America. Now, having won 2 gold medals for outstanding research, I instituted a gold medal in my own name for innovations in ENT, and that ran on for 10 years for teaching treatment and instrument design. A little amount of the work that we do from head and neck surgery, micro reconstructive surgery of the middle ear, on cosmetic rhinoplasty, of course, this female felt that her nose was, and that is how it was chopped and rectified. But some feel that she is more alluring, perhaps. Beauty lies in the mind of the beholder. We go into the sinuses and operate on the various sinuses. Today, of course, we go beyond the sinuses and operate on the eyeball. We go beyond and operate into the brain, or the mucormycosis, which is rampantly spreading across India for the terrible scourge of the coronavirus which is happening. So a little bit about endoscopic and microsurgery surgery. Of course, for voice, we do a whole lot of things. We can operate and make a voice either high pitched, or we can make it deep pitched as well. So it's all possible. If you have a very high feminine pitch, we can operate and bring in a deeper voice. That's called phonosurgery. You must be the best in the world. By the time you're 45, you must have outstanding caliber and ability in some way. Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years' time? And the work that you do must be far ahead of contemporary science. These are cures I developed over a period of time. Be the best in the world, so the world will make a beaten path to your door. For a period of time, absolute focus to the exclusion of all else, the divine forces will open and let you know where the answer lies. So we developed cures for migraine, vertigo, allergy, ear disease, and a whole host of things. So much so the world gravitates to my center. That's how you can stay in this business of medicine. Now, you are born in this world naked and bare. Your journey through this world is trouble and care. You go to from where? Nobody knows where. But if you do well here, you will do well there. Now, what takes you to the very top, apart from academics, two things. Number one, humility. Number two, obeisance to your teachers as well as your parents. Because a blessing from a teacher and a parent is absolutely of fundamental import to take you to the very top. So blessings from your parents and teachers and humility will take you to the very top. So therefore, that's my WhatsApp number. And we expect each one of you to separately write like the former batch. If you're not done that, it means you're shirking your responsibility. I attended this lecture of yours, and my deepest gratitude for the to the management, because it is under their instruction. They realize that here is a path-breaking presentation that totally changed my life. I must profusely thank the management as well. If any one of you have not written a feedback, that will go against you. Now, earlier, of course, we used to bank on the emails. Today, of course, that's all that is gone. And on WhatsApp, it is so wonderful and easy. Of the way these guys who pioneered WhatsApp, absolutely fantastic software. So therefore, you will in detail, not just a one or two lines about how what is the utility of this lecture, what you have attended. Some of the points that you have witnessed are those suggested by earlier attendees. And therefore, if you have something constructive to offer, do mention that. We will incorporate it in future presentations as well. Now, in your journey, I'm there in the ENT department. If you have to any clarification, if you want any suggestions or things, do come to me directly and I will help you. Of late, the management is given the official responsibility and authority to look into the academics of this entire campus. It is my desire that we be recognized as a torchbearer and one of the finest colleges in this part of the country. Can we do it jointly? Of course, yes. So in 6 colleges, we should be the number one. And the moment you come out of this college, people should look up to you with awe and say, "Oh my God, you've come out from AJ." Like when I say I've come from Manipur, there's no further questions asked. When I go and put picture and then practice in Kerala saying I'm from Manipur, no more questions asked, because that is the caliber that they bring in the guys who come out of the Manipur group. So I would expect a detailed WhatsApp on this number and all those who are present. Thank you very much. You're on a long journey. Wish you all the very best. Good luck. God bless and do well in life. Thank you very much. If you have any clarification, you may sort of unmute your mic and talk to me, or we will expect a detailed WhatsApp feedback on my WhatsApp page. If there's any other program, because it's a long journey, nearly 10 years of your life will be in academics only. And if you want anything else to be organized for you, the other day I did a program for MBA students in a neighboring college, and that is called Navigating Life. In a long journey, many horrendous things can go wrong, and you laugh, the world laughs with you, cry and you cry alone. So therefore, unless you are cautioned about the landmines in your journey, you might succumb to one or more of these things, and then you sort of so much of hopes and desires and aspirations you have come in here, along with the parents have come and cried in my room, in the earlier room, my room of associate dean. They said we had so much we look forward to. Now look at the tragedy and things that are happening. You got to take care a little bit of your health, because Mangalore as such is a endemic zone. One mosquito bite is enough for you for the passport to come. So 5 to 7 is when all these mosquitoes come and bite you. Make sure that you are fully protected, thoroughly scrub yourself and wash away the sweat smell. Mosquitoes are driven by the sweat smell. Now, one thing, of course, I say is look at all these mosquitoes, catch them and analyze them. They're all girls. The boys, of course, they sort of are quite happy and feed on plant nectar. But the female mosquitoes want a little bit of your blood, and consequently, therefore, so much AJ students and several other students from other colleges have one or two or three or more, which I am not in there, but people have died just by malaria. Or so therefore be very careful. Now, of course, there is a terrible pandemic happening. One wrong step and it's enough to finish you off. One wrong slight step. So therefore, be extremely careful because that's how the world is. And if you need to put a chat message, you can do so. Um, PUC is a very small book. Initially, we think it is so huge, but that is nothing compared to the ocean of knowledge that you will have to imbibe and master. And of course, a few exams, people say, no, it's okay, like the PUC, the government says, we will evaluate your performance. And no, MBBS is a rigid, die-hard course. Only the very best must come in because you're playing with life and death. One wrong step and a life can be lost. One wrong decimal point, it's called decimal deaths in America. One wrong decimal point and a Boeing full of people are killed by doctors every year in America because of wrong dosages. So therefore, you got to. That's why we got to have the very best only come in today because of need. There's a certain standard among students I observe compared to earlier years, but that's how good you should be. And if you fail your first year, then you become part of an IR batch. Nobody will ever care for you. And no, that is called a fail batch or an irregular batch. No, make sure that your first year absolutely will pass and right through the end, right up to 4.5 years, all subjects with flying colors. It's pretty easy if you're proper and systematic. So that's how you should be. Now again, write your name and put in a message, a WhatsApp. Now, what is I do not have political or religious leanings, but certainly certain religious texts I will quote. Therefore, the Quran says, "Give the man his due before the sweat of his labor dries." And a few things that you could do, which I did, because I come from a place where there is linguistic influences on the way I talk. Malayali English, it's called Mallu English, or sometimes people go to the temple, jump out of the window, and a whole lot of things. So every day I used to take one word from the 20th century Chambers Dictionary, write it in a small book, and then endlessly revise it, the pronunciation, diction, delivery, syntax, so that by the end of 1 week, I would have 7 new words in my repertoire. Of course, later on, because it's a confluence of languages, I would also study languages because eventually we will not give you a translator. If you have come from Kerala and you have a Kannada patient, and if you cannot understand their language, that is the end of your exam process. So, right, we will show you how you can master these languages because we have created a separate site for that. Of in Konkani Tukla Navkas, Javan or Kayagar, or in Kannada, of course, Nima Hesreno, Elio Mane, or in Tulu, Iliole, or in Kannada, Tulu, Tamil, Malayalam, Hindi are the 5 languages that are generally here. So you need to master them at least conversational so that you can carry out a decent interview process during the exam time. So therefore, we have come to the end of this presentation. It has totally changed the lives of so many who have so far attended. I hope it will make a change in you too. And therefore, thank you very much. Good luck. God bless. Thank you. Take care.